Hi everyone, welcome to the TJHSST YouTube channel. Through our YouTube videos, we hope students gain an understanding of how to approach different types of math problems seen on the TJ exam. Even if you got the problem right, watch this video as you can learn helpful problem-solving strategies that you can apply to other problems. If you want to learn more about our services, please go to tjtestprep.com. Today, we are going to go over the math essay from the 2021 TJ admissions test. Again, this is the actual math essay prompt for the TJ admissions test administered in March 2021. Now on to the problem. So the question is, you and two friends want to meet up at a location equally distant from each of your homes. One of your friends lives 4 miles north of your home and the other lives 4 miles east. Determine the best place to meet such that you each travel the same distance to that point. A third friend will ride her bicycle to your meeting point from her home 4 miles northwest of your home. Assume that you and your first two friends walk at 4 miles per hour. What speed should the third friend ride to meet the group? Pause the video right now and try solving the problem before we go over it together. Okay, so I'm assuming that you have solved the problem. First, let's break down the question into two sub-questions given in the problem. So the first sub-question is determine the best place to meet such that you each travel the same distance to that point. So that's the first thing that we are supposed to find out. And the second thing that we are supposed to determine is what speed should the third friend ride to meet the group. So I'm going to solve each of these questions individually. So in part 1, determine the best place to meet such that you and your friend each travel the same distance to that point. From the question, we are given that one friend lives 4 miles north and the other friend lives 4 miles east. Let's assign friend number 1 to the friend who lives 4 miles north and friend number 2 to the friend that lives 4 miles east. In fact, let me go to Desmos so I can plot these graphs. We can convert the directions into Cartesian coordinates, where every unit is 1 mile. I can put myself at the origin, so the origin meaning 0, 0, and I will label this myself, or me. And then we know that friend number 1 is 4 miles north. So 4 miles north, we can say is 0, 4. And I can label this as friend 1. And you can see it's 4 miles north, or 4 units up from myself. And the second friend is 4 miles east, or 4 units right from myself. And I can name this friend 2. So now we have where everybody is. And so we are supposed to now determine what the meeting place is, so that the meeting place is the same distance from these 3 points. So let's call the meeting place x, y. We know that the distance between myself and both friends has to be the same, and we can use the distance formula in order to determine the point. As we know, the distance formula is the square root of x minus x1 the whole squared plus y minus y1 the whole squared, where x1, y1 and x2, y2 are 2 different points. Since the distances have to be the same, we just plug in the 3 points and set them equal to each other. So again, the meeting place is x, y, and so the distance from the meeting place to 0, 0, which is where I am, right, 0, 0, would just be the square root of x minus 0 plus y minus 0. Then the distance from the meeting place to friend number 1, right, who's at 0, 4, would just be the square root of x minus 0 squared plus y minus 4 squared. And then the same thing for friend number 2. So because they're equidistant, all 3 of these distances have to be the same. Thus, we can just put an equal sign right next to each other. So pause the video, just make sure at this point that you understand where this is coming from. Okay, perfect. So again, just to make sure, because this is very key that you understand, we're saying that the meeting place is x comma y, and then we're setting the distance between the meeting place and the 3 points equal to each other. We're using the distance formula. So we have all these three equal to each other, and now we just have to simplify. So simplifying, we can just square all sides. So we just get rid of the square roots, and we get x squared plus y squared equals x squared plus y minus 4 squared equals x minus 4 squared plus y squared. So what do we do from here? How can we find x and y? Well, from this first equation, if we set the first equation and the second equation equal to each other, right? X squared plus y squared and x squared plus y minus 4 squared, if we get rid of the x squareds, then we get y squared equals y minus 4 squared. And the same for the first equation, or first expression rather, and the last expression. If we set these two equal to each other, right? X squared plus y squared and x minus 4 squared plus y squared, if we just get rid of the y squareds, then we get that x squared equals x minus 4 the whole squared. And then you just solve for x and y. You just solve for x and y from here. And you can expand it, or you can just plug in what number works for both x and y. And you'll find that 2 comma 2, or x equals 2 and y comma 2 are the answers, and thus the meeting place is 2 comma 2. So let me plot this in Desmos, 2 comma 2, and I will label this as the meeting place. So alternatively, you can just notice that 2 comma 2 is equidistant, right? So even if I didn't have this, you could just say, okay, what place looks equidistant? And you can notice, hey, 2 comma 2 seems to be 2 units diagonal from each of these 3 points, 2 comma 2. So meeting place, perfect. So 2 comma 2, again, is just 2 units diagonal from each of these 3 points, which means that it's equidistant. So if you just notice that at first, you didn't have to do this math, but this is just the mathematical or algebraic way, rather, to get the meeting place. So that's part 1, right? We know that the meeting place is 2 comma 2. It's good to check that our math is correct. If you plug in the points back into the distance formula, you can see that they are all equidistant. So 2 comma 2 looks like the correct answer. So again, you just plug in 2 comma 2 and the distance between that point and the 3 points, right? Me, which is 0 comma 0, friend 1, which is 0 comma 4, and friend 2, which is 4 comma 0, and you'll find that the distance is 2 square root of 2. So the distance is 2 square root of 2. In fact, we are going to use this distance in the second part, so just keep this distance in mind, right? The distance from each of the friends and myself to the meeting place is 2 comma 2, or 2 times square root of 2 rather. And alternatively, if you just know a root 2, just from triangles, that also works as well. So, but point is, to check our answers, we just plug it back into the distance formula, we get the correct answer, so we're good. 2 comma 2 looks good to us. So now let's move on to part 2. What speed should the third friend ride to meet the group? So friend 3, given in the problem, so let's go back to the problem. It says a third friend will ride her bicycle to your meeting point from her home 4 miles northwest of your home. So 4 miles northwest. So if I'm here, right, I'm here, northwest means you go up and then you go left, right? Because west is usually left and north is usually up, so it'll be somewhere in this area. If you want to break it down into quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4, then northwest will be somewhere in quadrant 2, meaning that it'll have a negative x coordinate and a positive y coordinate. So northwest is about there, but what point exactly will this person be at? What point? So first we have to actually find out where this person is, right? So what x and y coordinate are they at? So it says 4 miles northwest. So we can, if we put A and B as the sides of the triangle that touches this point, or in other words, A being the magnitude of the x coordinate, and I'm specifying magnitude because obviously if you plug it into the Pythagorean theorem, it would have to be positive sides. But again, since it's squared, I guess in this case it doesn't matter, but you can think of it as the magnitude of the side of the triangle, right? Um, or just the x-coordinate itself. A squared plus b squared equals 4 squared, right? So b is the height, a is the base, or a is the x-coordinate, b is the y-coordinate, and that has to equal 4 squared. Now, there are two unknowns here, a and b, and we only have one equation. So this isn't going to work. We need an additional piece of information. So for the sake of this problem, let's assume that a and b are the same, meaning that northwest means directly, like diagonally northwest, not just somewhere like relatively northwest, but rather a and b are the exact same sides, right? Or exact same length, rather. So directly northwest. Um, and so we set A and B equal to each other, is my point, right? So A and B would be equal to each other, and we're just assuming that A and B equals to each other because they said 4 miles northwest. So we can just assume A and B equals to each other. So then um, now we have one equation, one unknown, which is 2a squared equals 16. And from here, we can just solve for A. And A is 2 square root 2. So now we know the x-coordinate and y-coordinate are 2 root 2 in magnitude. So this is why I specified magnitude. But that doesn't mean that the actual x-coordinate is 2 root 2. Why? Because the point is in quadrant 2, meaning it has to be a negative x-coordinate and a positive y-coordinate. So that means that the actual coordinates are negative square root 2, comma, positive square root 2. Okay? So again, pause the video if that's not clear. And let me plot this. In fact, I'll just type it again. 2 times square root of 2 and 2 square root 2. And we can label this as, I'm just thinking they should have a different color. We can label this as friend 3. Friend 3. Perfect. So we have friend 1, friend 2, me, friend 3 in the meeting place. And again, friend 3 is directly northwest. So when I say directly northwest, we can do y equals negative x, and it's along that point. So it's like directly diagonal. Because a and b are the same magnitude, or the x-coordinate and the y-coordinate are the same magnitude. So I just want to make that very clear. So now we know where where friend 3 actually is. But how do we get the speed of friend 3, right? That's what we need in the problem. So we know that speed equals distance over time. So we know that speed equals distance over time. So all we have to do is find the distance and then find the time and divide, right? So speed equals distance over time. So find the distance, find the time, divide, and you have speed. Perfect. So let's first calculate distance because this one is relatively easy. So obviously you're traveling from friend 3's original location to the meeting place. So the distance would just be the distance between friend 3 and the meeting place. So how do we do that? Again, just plug it into the distance formula. Distance from friend 3 to meeting place is the square root of, all right? So the meeting place is 2, 2, and this is negative 2 root 2, 2 root 2, right? So 2 plus the square root of 2, because this is 2 minus a minus square root 2 root 2, so the 2 minuses cancel out and become a plus, right? So this is the x-coordinate, and then this is the y-coordinate of 2 minus square root of 2, right? Because 2 and then minus square root of 2. So just make sure that you understand the plus and minus. Again, this is 2 minus a minus 2 root 2, which is just plus, and then because this is positive, it's just a minus. That ends up being square root of 24. That ends up being square root of 24. And so now the question is, how do we determine this, right? How do we determine that it's a square root of 24 when we don't have a calculator to use, right? Because, if you just plug this all into the calculator, that's fine. But in the TJ test, you're not allowed to use a calculator. So how do we determine this? Well, I will leave that up to you guys to determine. But what you'll realize is that when you expand this, you know what? Let's actually go over this. I want to go over this because this is actually important. So let's expand this, right? So we have 2 times the square root of 2. Yeah, this is important, so I'm just going to go over this. And we're trying to calculate this, the whole squared, right? Again, what are we trying to do here? what we're trying to figure out is we don't have a calculator on the actual exam. And so how do we simplify it from this value to square root of 24? So if we expand this, right, let's expand back. I'll just put in the whole thing. 2 minus 2 square root of 2, the whole squared. So you'll see it's 24, and then obviously, right, so that's fine. Now how do you expand this? So a plus b squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So what's a squared? 4, right? 2 squared is 4, plus 2ab, which is 2 times a times b. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 root 2, which is 8 root 2, and then plus b squared. B squared is 2 root 2 squared, which is just 2 times, or 2 root 2 times 2 root 2, right? And when you group it together, it would be 2 times 2 times root 2 times root 2, which is 8. So 2 root 2 squared is 8. All right? Now let's go to the second part, which is this part. So we expanded the first expression. Now let's expand the second expression. A squared minus, or a minus b the whole squared is a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. So a squared is 4, same thing as before, minus 2ab. So minus the same thing, right? 2 times 2 root 2, which is minus 8 root 2, and then plus b squared, which is 8. So we have these two parts, and obviously it's just going to be this plus this. Now how do we simplify this? Well, from here it becomes easy because 8 root 2 and 8 root 2 cancel out, because this is plus 8 root 2 minus 8 root 2, so then it would just be 4 plus 8 plus 4 plus 8, which is 24. So we still get the value square root of 24. Again, you don't need a calculator to solve this, you just have to expand it, and what you'll realize is that because this is plus and because this is minus, the 2ab terms here will be plus 2ab, here will be minus 2ab, those will cancel out, and you're just left with the regular numbers that you can add up, and you get 24. So, a common question would be, hey, even if we don't have a calculator, can we still solve this? The answer is yes, you can still get the distance. So now we have the distance, and now we just need the time. Once we have distance and time, we can get speed. So we have, again, distance, time, we just need to find the time now. So the time it takes for friend 3 to get to the meeting place. How much time is that? Well, what we're trying to do in the question, if we go back to the question, is what speed should the third friend ride to meet the group, right? So that basically means that the time taken for friend 3 to go to the meeting place should be the same time as friend 1, friend 2, and myself take to go to the meeting place. So in other words, the time for all friends has to be the same, right? So time for myself to go to the meeting place, friend 1, friend 2, and friend 3 have to be the same because friend 3 has to meet the group at the same time. We're right here. So we finished this. So that means the time has to be the same, which means if we just find the time that it takes for friend 2 to get there, or friend 1, or myself, they're all the same, then that's the same thing as the time for friend 3. So how do we get the time, right? Well, we can use the formula time equals distance over speed, which is the same thing but rearranged to solve for time. And so we know that, again, we can just solve for the time for, let's say, friend 1 or friend 2. The distance from friend 1 or friend 2 or myself, I'll just say myself because it's at the origin, it's easier to see, to the meeting place is 2 root 2, right? We calculated this over here, or you can just visually see because, 45, 45, 90 triangle, it's a 2 root 2 length. So that's the distance. And the speed, how do we get the speed? Well, that's given. That's given as 4 miles per hour. Right? Assume that you and your friend walk at 4 miles per hour, so that's given at 4 miles per hour. Okay, perfect. So then you just simplify this and you get square root of 2 over 2 hours. Also make sure that when you're solving the problem that your units match up. So miles divided by miles per hour becomes hours. So we're all good in that sense. So now we have distance, we have time, and we can determine speed. So speed equals distance over time. We just plug in the values. We simplify a little bit based on just rules and just general simplification. And we finally get that the speed is 4 root 3 miles per hour. Let's check our answers. So time equals distance over speed. We can just check that the times are the same. That's like a good check. And so time for friend 3, right? Distance of square root of 24 miles divided by that speed. And that equals square root of 8 over 4 miles per hour, which is the time for me and friend 1 or 2. So that, just checks our answer. So we're more certain of our answer of 4 root 3 miles per hour. So again, the final answer rather, is the meeting place will be at 2, 2, or you can think of it as 2 miles north, 2 miles east. The speed for friend 3 is 4 times square root of 3 miles per hour, 4 root 3 miles per hour. So that's what the final answer would be. Remember that even if you did not get the correct answer, explaining your process with a logical flow is what is the most important and what they're actually trying to judge for, rather than just purely getting the correct answer. But there's a lot of moving components here. So being able to explain all these moving components, getting distance, time, speed, lots of different kind of variables, explaining this is more important than getting the final answer. But it's good to just check that you have the correct answer anyway. So thank you for watching our video. Please visit tjtestprep.com for more information about our TJ Test Prep services. Contact Prep4TJ, that's prep, the number 4, TJ, at gmail.com for any questions. Check out our blog, tjtestprep.com/blog, for helpful posts about the admissions process. And finally, if you enjoyed our video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Again, contact us, visit our website, and hopefully we can be in touch. Thank you.